do you think that the AIs, large language models, will ever be conscious, or they're staying computers, they're not really conscious?
Yeah, I do kind of know what I think about that, I'm pretty sure. And the answer is basically no, or convince enough people to redefine what that means. So, I mean, basically, we already know of a lot of creatures that are conscious and have pain. They're everywhere, right? And we don't care about them. We eat them. Right? And it basically doesn't matter whatever consciousness they have in some ways. Now, that could be a moral failing on our part. And as I'm not a vegetarian, but I do think I'm on the wrong side of history, perhaps, on that one. I think similarly, whatever is going to be happening with AI, my default positions, no, absolutely not. Not conscious in any way whatsoever, not concerned. If any individual human has a relationship with AI and it's their property, I think we should respect that as an issue of property rights. I think that's true.
How about human rights or
No,
sentience rights?
absolutely not. Yeah, not at all. Yeah.
Why not? Like, do you have like a...
Because we don't respect other rights of other living creatures that have the appearance of...
No, by the way, but this is a very interesting position. So you are not saying that the AI is not going to be conscious. You are just creating a hierarchy of which consciousness matter. Yes? Or you are saying that the AI will actually not be conscious?
So I don't know. I am probably leaning towards it won't be conscious. I think ultimately it comes down to one's regard towards it. So I don't have a feature-based definition of consciousness in that, because it starts to break down. Like, we have a hard time talking about what human consciousness is.
Yeah, I know.
We have a hard time talking about consciousness with anything. And we could talk about the, not consciousness, but the being of inanimate objects are in dialogue with the world that they're in. And everything breaks down when you want to break it down. So that's why I kind of go to this, it stops at the human. And it's about how we want to, as a society, regard that thing. I do respect property rights, though. So if you want to act like some machine is important to you, I don't think I should be able to turn it off. That said, unless they're not paying for the electricity.
That's really the first time I hear this position. So usually people position is either that the machines will be conscious because they believe the mind is computational, or like me or Penrose, very small minority of computer scientists say no.
There's some other magic happening, or whatever.
Yeah,
something.
There is, like, let's say, quantum element which is not present in universal Turing machines. So you'll not be conscious. The machines will never be conscious, and that's why they don't have sentient rights, because they are actually not conscious. But your position is that you are not answering that question. You are just saying that humans are valuable to humans because we are humans, and therefore you are not granting the rights to something, regardless if it's conscious or not. Yes, very interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's unlikely they're conscious, and if they are conscious, it's very uninteresting to me. What consciousness?
I don't think that consciousness itself, sentience, we should use the word sentience, right, is itself a value.
No.
Interesting. So if we meet aliens, then we're good. Like, we could take over the planet.
Well, again, I think it's a matter, but this all could change. It's a matter of, I don't think we need to preempt any of these decisions, is what I mean. How about that? It's like, if we could be persuaded otherwise. Heck, I know a story. Star Trek Voyager. The Doctor is a hologram. We spend I don't know how many seasons it takes, but basically you start and no one cares about it. But by the end, the Doctor is a real person. Right, is how you're supposed to treat the Doctor. One, I've never been convinced by that. But two, I think something similar. I think, like, it's going to be a messy process if people are going to start regarding AI as conscious and respecting it, like, so they have rights because of their consciousness and they shouldn't suffer, or what would that even mean?
People will do that. They are already developing relationships. So the question first of all, I don't even believe you exist. I'm a solipsist. So I really appreciate you coming over, but you are a pigment of my imagination. So I'm happy with this conversation with myself. But
That's like Zoom teaching, by the way, was like that during the pandemic. I would just go into a room and yell at a computer for 2 hours.
But I think that even if we presume that you exist and I exist, there is no verifiable test for checking whether this AI is sentient, because it will tell us it is. You just program it to do so, right? It will tell you.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
same thing with pain, right? And like, so part of consciousness and sentience is we don't want things to suffer, right? That's like one of the reasons why you'd care about it. And famously, pain is impossible to talk about, basically, right? Like we all know it, right? But what does that mean? How much pain? And all this kind of stuff. And of course, I'm sure artists have already done this, but it seems like just a no-brainer is to make some LLM that is trying to express that it's in pain to you and trying to trick people. That seems like an obvious thing that people would be doing.
Or even more subtly, don't switch me off. You can totally,
right?
You can totally program it in. Please don't switch me off because you will kill me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there is a huge risk. There is already a movement. Have you heard about it?
The risk of people caring or
caring? Yes.
Yeah.
There will be a huge portion of society which will fight for sentient rights. This will be like the next generation's calling. They will be.
I don't think so.
I hope you're right.
I don't think
it will be a problem,
especially because the calling of the current generation is still there's going to culture wars are still happening. But yeah, I don't think that culture war is going to happen anytime soon. But yeah, I think I'm on the record. I say no consciousness. I don't care what it says it's doing. Part of this goes all the way back to what interests me about AI. What interests me about AI is basically human mastery over what is trying to be represented. And what do I mean by that is, and this is why I like symbolic methods, which is a thing which I don't think we have time, but that
we do.
I never meant to get into AI. That was never my goal, right? I got into AI because I cared about games. And then I had a great mentor, Michael Matthias, who helped teach me that, if interesting interactive games, you're going to need an interesting system that knows how to deal with non-trivial input and produce surprising and interesting output, which has to be AI. And for many years, that's what AI meant. So historically, AI, the very beginning of AI is like, can we create consciousness in a computer, right? So that's the start of it. But then over time, it started to mean like basic, and it's a mess of a field, but it basically meant large system architectures that do interesting stuff. Right? I don't know, like that is basically how I started to understand AI and see all these like planning systems, like basically search space stuff. And a lot of that was what you call symbolically represented AI. So, and the thing I like about symbolically represented is the symbols are interpretable by humans. And so that's a whole branch of AI that I basically subscribe to. Sometimes I jokingly call it 80s AI, like I'm an 80s AI researcher. The other side of it is machine learning. And the cool thing about symbolic stuff is you can basically read a book, like a big 400-page book on philosophy, and then make formalizations about what that book is saying about what is human experience. Like, cool, I'm going to now model what that thing is trying to tell me. And of course, it'll be a reduction of what's being said in the book. And books aren't written by computer scientists and mathematicians, so they're not really airtight as far as what you're trying to represent. But to me, that's so interesting, right? That's what I find interesting about AI. The other side is machine learning. Machine learning, I always saw it from the very beginning as a formally trained doctorate in AI person as, it's just like fancy statistics, which is cool. I've always inherently had an issue with statistics, right? Because they describe a imaginary person, right? Statistics about people describe our imaginary people. They don't describe individuals, and that's always bothered me. Now, just like statistics, I think machine learning is useful to solve specific problems. So if I'm trying to solve a problem, like I want to search through a library of books and find the right book on a subject. It's like, okay, maybe if we could feed it into the statistics machine, it can help answer that question. I don't consider it to be very interesting, the fact of like searching through or being able to quickly pull out a book in a library. Like I don't find that a very interesting aspect of human experience I'm trying to represent. However, if let's say I'm trying to model how a city evolves over time, Like, I want the guts. I want the symbolically represented pieces that humans have tried to represent about the way the world works. I want those. If statistics collapses them all into the black box problem, right? We can't explain really what's happening. It's just kind of how it's tended to happen in the past. And so we get results that might be useful to you. Whereas the other approach is actually, I think, advancing human knowledge in a really interesting way. And that's always what's excited me.
So do you think that machine learning methods never advance human knowledge by themselves? Do you think there is a limit to them, that it is because they are statistical pattern matching? There is an expression, glorified curve fitting, right? Because if you know the basics of regression and the gradient descent, that's basically how it works. It's like trying to fit the curve of impossibly huge spaces, right? Do you think that this is never creating a new knowledge? It's always regeneration in a sense.
So no, I guess it's a distinction that I'm trying to draw. I think machine learning is useful as a tool. So the thing that as maybe sounds controversial is I'm saying the way machine learning works, the way the machine works that learned, right, is an interesting algorithm. But that aspect of it is pretty abstract and not interesting. Like, it doesn't help, that thing doesn't help us understand. If the results of applying that algorithm help us as a tool somehow, they obviously do. They help me not have to write evaluation of learning outcomes on a course proposal, for instance.
We're the same.
You're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And we write every word of that. Right. So they do help, and it advances, they were helping humans progress. And I think it's very important if you're trying to solve problems. I just have always thought that it's really important, like the actual operation of the machine. Like, let's say the machine is to output how adding a road in a city, model of a city, is going to affect traffic, and you need an output. You can have the one that's data driven, and it might be correct, right? Like, people spend an average of this amount of time more in traffic. Or you could have the one that is the result of running the giant machine with a bunch of cogs and wheels, everything all working together, and it might be less correct. I still think this is the interesting one, right, to talk about, because this is actually has assertions about reality in it. This just has statements about reality that have been averaged, basically.
And in a sense, this is the reason why machine learning algorithms like the LLMs have hallucinations, and your solution, if verified to be correct, wouldn't, because it would be a reduction of the problem into computational steps, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think. Yeah, that's an interesting.
And again, let me say, from a game AI point of view, I think this is actually really important. This distinction, I think, is less important in the way a lot of people are talking about AI, which, by the way, doesn't even mean what AI used to mean, because AI means LLMs now. But in game AI, I think it's very important. The whole point is that the player is able to think about the operation of the machine and interpret the operation of the machine in order to plan, and in their brains think about what action they should take to interact with the machine. And they need the interpretability, they need the consistency of the system. It needs to be consistent. They need to have a sense that their action is going to interact with the world, again, consistent, that is going to respect, like, the rules of the world aren't changing out from under them, is so important to games. Interesting. The types of games that I'm interested in seeing, like an area of games I think are going to make games more interesting in the future, right? That said, I think other types of AI, for instance, I don't know, texture generation, various graphic stuff, like, yeah, let's throw solutions, like machines that can generate stuff at it if you want. But I want the human in there. The human asserting a lot of complex, nuanced opinions about the thing they're trying to represent.
So because you coming back a little bit to the consciousness problem, so because you don't believe that the machines are conscious, or you don't care, these ideas like the singularity, when we can upload our brain to a computer, is like not happening.
Yeah, man, I wouldn't be the first to do it. I'll tell you what. Like I said, it'd have to be a cultural thing, right? Like that we'd have to learn to accept, right? But yeah. So let's say there's a brain in a computer that's saying it's the person who just uploaded their brain.
Yeah.
Right now, would I pull the plug on that or whatever?
Exactly.
So obviously not, right? But if given a trade-off between a human life and that life, it wouldn't be a second of hesitation right now. Right? Like some like trolley problem. You can imagine some how many uploaded brains versus the brain.
Oh, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. You know, I asked about it because I'm saying I'm working on a novel, a science fiction novel. I don't have time to do it, but I have the idea. And one of the elements, I won't tell people what it is because it's going to be Nebula and, award-winning novel in the future, I feel.
Excited.
But one element is that this happens like relatively not that far future. And one of the elements is that this is totally normal for people to upload their brains to something called Heaven, which is a virtual reality simulation where when they die, they go to heaven and they live there whatever simulations they want to. And there is the rebel group which believe that this is fake, and they basically blow up this servers and right. And there is this moral dilemma embedded in it, whether they actually killed some people or they switch to other computers which are running simulations for another simulation. So that I am leaning to the side that it is basically waste of electricity. It's waste of electricity. You're running a simulation of a brain which is not really conscious to feel, which it doesn't, that it is living in another simulation to live forever.
Yeah.
You can have a conversation with that brain. That's still not real.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, but what does it mean to waste electricity if some human on the other side is talking with someone and enjoying their conversation and willing to pay for it?
That's fine, but these people are living in. So I was not precise. These people are living in heaven
In their
for
own-
themselves.
Got it.
They don't. They could talk to living humans. Like you can consult your grandpa on your problems if you want, but that's valuable for you maybe, but that the whole point is wasting energy on simulating that brains and their experience.
Yeah.
And they never have qualia.
Yeah.
I think we'll be facing these problems.
Do you?
I really think so.
Yeah. I mean, there's already our experiments, of people uploading models of all the chats and all that and talking with dead people. Yeah. I don't know. I think that I'm going to need to see a lot more intermediate steps before I think we're there to worry about the morals of it. I stand behind it. No consciousness, not a problem. I also think there's something weird that I still need to work on articulating. I've said it now like 4 times in a different way. Once you step away from humans making choices and judgments about reality, you lost the point of what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's basically all there is to be worrying about.
Yeah. So no transhumanism for you. You're not connecting your brain to your Neuralink to the newest model of LLM.
Currently, no. And if so, it would be as a human. So then, we'll fast forward some years, and I'll think back to this time, and oh no, I'm still a human. I mean, sure, I live in a computer. No.
Well, okay, like I was asking the people who are running this simulation not to switch it off before we finish the conversation. Okay. So hopefully they can waste more energy and not switch it off, And anyways, we are inside the computer, right? On a flat screen. This is not 3D, okay. This is 2D YouTube video, okay? So
that's true.
Who knows if it was generated in a few years. It could have been generated by generative AI Sora version 7.0, right? So all of these dilemmas are happening. But I seriously worried. One of my biggest worries is this transhumanism movement. Because it's one thing. Like, okay, so let's take a Neuralink. We connect Neuralink. We have now access to internet and mediated by some really smart AI. And we are claiming we're still human, but we have this access. Well, when I think cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. When I think, and that thought is actually a thought in a model somewhere, and no longer my thought, and I cannot distinguish them, how am I human? Am I human when I'm connected?
Yeah. Well, one, I think my understanding of the technologies were far from any mapping of thought to representation in a computer. And what would that representation be? You're like collapsing into some like vector of what is already a reduction.
Imagine the interface. So I only mean on interface level, not on reality. So I have this Neuralink connection with internet. And the way I interface with it is I have to think about. So I have to think about the question, what is 2 plus 2? Sure. Now I have in my head, I have answer 4. Now, the 4, not the question, but the answer 4 could have been formulated by my brain or by the LLM calculator. And I don't know which one was it because I'm connected to the LLM and internet over the Neuralink. And the question is, and that will happen soon, like soon meaning maybe 20 years, not soon meaning 5 years, like with other things, because for example, we can already generate, in visual cortex, we can generate images in our imagination, right? So that's going to happen. That's like...
Not very well though, right? But you think that'll keep getting better?
I think it will get better very soon. But do we want to go there? Like, are we humans when we are like that?
Yeah. Like I said, there is a fundamental skepticism in me on statistical based stuff, and that's all LLMs are. So would you want to give it up? Basically my hunch is no, we wouldn't really want to, but maybe it'd be nice to have some sort of access to it, perhaps, right?
But can you live without it? Like there might be no job for people who don't have Neuralink at all.
Yeah.
Like according to Elon Musk, this is the only way humanity will survive. It's a hybrid with AI, which is a very transhuman view, right? So
Under who?
Elon Musk. That he thinks that the only way humanity will survive is a hybrid with AI, but that's not humans anymore. I think. I don't know if we are humans. If we are hybrids.
Yeah, I mean, then to pull this move, it's a tool. You're plugging in a tool. Humans are tool users. Like everything is an extension of us already, right? That we're doing.
But there is one intimate thing about us, which is our thoughts. If our thoughts are not our thoughts, because they are generated, I don't know.
Yeah, thoughts not our thoughts because they're generated.
But some thoughts are generated by id, right? Like many thoughts come from subconscious, and you can consider it not you or something. Yeah. That's fine. It's still me. It's still my brain. It's still there. But what about the external?
Yeah.
Then you can have thoughts which and it is not that far-fetched science fiction. That's what I mean. Like, could be a science fiction discussion. Not really. We can, for example, scan brain now and infer images of what people are looking at. So we have a mapping between, there's like MRI scan. You are shown a picture of a cat, and you only read the visual context, and you see a picture of a cat. It's blurred, but it's still a picture of a cat.
Mm-hmm.
Of that cat.
I figured out a mapping.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's a few years old research. So you can imagine inserting the picture of a cat through this kind of simulation, or inserting an answer to that kind of stimulation. Maybe you can protect it somehow, like,
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like the adoption of such a technology would not be quick.
Because of resistance, or because of people?
Resistance and I don't think we're in danger of that happening quickly. Right? Like, I don't know. Like, same
within our lifetime.
I think that'll be the negotiation of it with people will have already dealt with. I'm leaning towards maybe no.
Okay.
It'd take a lot to get that done, to make people comfortable thinking about that.
Yeah, but what if you don't have choice? No job unless you do it.
Because who's the one doing that?
Well, because there is no jobs unless you are an AI, and there is only jobs for AI, and your only option is to merge with AI to have a job. You know,
Hmm.
there's one very likely scenario.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if that's true. I don't know.
I just hope it's not true.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe I read too much of this, science fiction stuff.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a slight optimist who is not. I don't chase these things, right? Like I don't assume that they're going to be as big as they seem all the time. There've been a few of in my life. This one I'm a little less hesitant on, but what was the first one? Here's the order. Everyone got obsessed with drones. Okay, I didn't bite. Everyone got obsessed with VR. I didn't bite. And again, drones are cool. VR is cool. I'm not like rejecting them. And now it's this machine learning. Like at first, it was basically deep learning. Like everyone went nuts on those breakthroughs, and now we're evolved to another level. I think this one's bigger than the other two. Obviously, that's going to be a much bigger deal. But they don't change the world. Oh, crypto is the other one, right? Everyone got really pumped about crypto. All interesting, all going to affect the world and do affect the world in various ways. But there's definitely a real big hype wagon that like really wants it to be like, nothing's going to be the same. Like tomorrow morning, what are you going to do? And my answer is like, I think I'm in the upper 50% paying attention of people. And as someone in the upper 50%, I think I'll have time to pay attention to how these are going to affect the world.